The recommendations that we have for all countries remain the same. Our recommendations include finding all cases, testing cases, caring for cases in the appropriate settings, depending on the severity of their symptoms. Finding all contacts, quarantining those contacts for the full 14 days, making sure that public is fully engaged so that they know what they can do. There is some question about the use of lockdowns or these public health measures. Many countries have had to put those in place because the transmission has increased so rapidly that they were forced to do that. What we have had to do is put guidance out to support countries in lifting those measures, which needs to be done in a controlled way because this virus likes to find opportunities to spread. And if these lockdown measures are lifted too quickly, the virus can take off. And that's a worry that we have. But the question about countries finding cases should not be seen as a negative thing. It should be seen as a positive thing, and we need to support countries through these incredibly difficult times. And as you find cases, the only way to control and suppress this virus, this COVID-19, is to actually find them, quarantine those contacts, isolate the cases, and it will be brought under control.
I will be particularly concerned about, and it's not based on the absolute numbers, but it's based on the underlying vulnerabilities of populations and also the underlying weaknesses of the health system. And this is particularly acute in areas where there's existing humanitarian crisis. And remind you that there'll be an update to the global humanitarian response plan for COVID-19 tomorrow, which we greatly welcome. And when we look at those numbers, and again, they may be small numbers, but again, we've seen in Afghanistan a 76% increase in cases, but also what we're seeing is deaths beginning to increase there by over 60%. Sudan has a 145% increase in the last week, but also tracking increase in deaths of 80%. Palestine similarly with the 100% increase in deaths in the last week. Yemen has a very small problem in the sense of the number of cases that have been reported, but we believe that the virus is spreading at community level, and we need to focus on providing essential health services and COVID-19 services to all people in Yemen, as we do to all people in Syria, and working across lines and ensuring that we are getting and reaching all people within borders, regardless of the different conflicts that are ongoing, is becoming an increasing challenge for the humanitarian organizations. There are other concerns in South America, Central America. There are countries still like Peru and Ecuador that have experienced increase in cases. But again, as Maria said, some of this is down to better testing, and we're seeing more cases. We need to be tracking the proportion of tests that are positive as a way of better tracking that, but also tracking the number of deaths is a good way to really look at that impact. We've also seen in Europe and Western Europe a fundamental decrease in the number of cases, but we have seen a consequent, or not a consequent, but an associated increase in the number of cases reported in places like the Russian Federation. So each region, Southeast, South or the Western Pacific areas have a relatively are on the downward trend, like Korea and others. But then we do see in South Asia and places like Bangladesh and India some trends towards increase. So it's very difficult to say that any particular region is improving or disimproving. There are individual countries within each region that are having difficulties getting on top of this disease, and I am particularly concerned about those countries that have existing ongoing humanitarian crises. Haiti is another one that comes to mind that I would be very concerned about. We need to focus on ensuring that the most vulnerable people in the world get prioritized assistance in this response.
Thank you very much. I'm calling on Hilary from Business Insider. Hilary, if you can hear us and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Great. Yeah, thanks for taking my question. I just wanted to talk about a couple of new reports coming out of France and Florida, some new evidence in scientific journals and via public health departments that there might have been some of the first COVID cases in those places as early as late December. And I'm wondering if, kind of given the speed of global travel these days, if you think countries around the world might have taken a more aggressive approach to some early testing and assumed the virus might have been spreading in their countries earlier.
Of the paper, a recent paper that came out, it was published yesterday or overnight, on a sample from an individual that tested positive by PCR for now known as COVID-19 on December 27th. In this paper, the authors themselves say that it could be a false positive, but assuming it's not, it is possible that this individual may have had COVID-19 in December. This was about a month before the first cases were reported in France. We need more information about this particular case, if this is a case, to find out the different types of history that this individual may have had. It is possible that there could have been a case in France as early as December. The first symptom onset of the cluster in Wuhan was on the 1st of December. So it is possible that someone may have traveled from Wuhan in the month of December and traveled to other locations, but I don't want to speculate. It's really important that we look further into this. The second thing to mention is that some countries are now utilizing their influenza-like illness and their severe acute respiratory illness surveillance system, which has been established across more than 100 countries for influenza.